Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens, the screenwriting step-by-step project, session number 219, episode 219. My name is Glenn Gers, and I come to you every Monday through Friday, if I can make it, at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time Zone, to let you look over my shoulder, share my screen as I write a script. This is my contribution to the world of screenwriting teaching because I think this is an under-taught area. The process of writing a script, not the contents, not the style, not the commercial value, just the process. How do you get ideas into an outline, into scenes, onto the page, and rewritten so that they're readable? That's it, just a process, because every writer does it their own way. Every writer has their own vision. Every writer is going to find their own type of script to write, but every writer has to figure out some process for getting stuff into words on the page. And that is what people don't talk about enough, how you have to work out your process. So what I'm doing is letting you watch me walk through it, page by page, line by line, in case it will help you pick up some tips, some tricks, some things to try when you are facing the blank page. This is not the best way to do it. It's not the only way to do it. It's the way that I figured out for myself in a 25-year career writing for TV and movies, because when I started out, there just wasn't anybody teaching this stuff. There were like 2 books on it. And so that is why I am here. I am here just to let you see it in case it helps. You don't have to watch all of the episodes. You don't have to watch them in order. In fact, I would say if you want to learn from me, the place to go is my main channel and to go to the first 3 playlists. I got a picture of them up here. As you'll notice, every single one of the videos just has a big name, simple words telling you what it's about. It's a little 10-minute lesson on dramatic action or genre or flashbacks, something that I think is useful that I tried to boil down into very clear, simple thoughts that you can use. Tools, skills, process. That's all I got for you, and I think that's all you need. Everybody else has to figure everything else for themselves. Every man for themselves. So to speak, every person for themselves. Hi, Di. Hi, Nathan. Hi, Najo. Hi, 99 Precinct. Hi, Matthew. Hi, Donna. Wow, all of you people managed to show up here every day. It's quite amazing, and I am very, very, very glad to have you here as we churn through this script, because that is, at the end of the day, the point of what we are doing here, is to show you how I am writing this thing in the hopes that as I'm doing it, you'll go, oh, I see, you can skip that part, or oh, that is easier when you cut down the number of words, or oh, yeah, I can write a garbage version of this and then get it into something that works. That's all fine. Okay, so hi, Jean. How are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. These, I'm just clarifying. Characters, 5 locations. Okay. Hi, everyone. This is one of those things where just introducing a concept like I'm going to show a Zoom meeting. Now, to a certain extent, when you say full screen Zoom meeting, everyone pretty much is going to know what that is. Certainly everyone who matters in reading a script, they know what Zoom meetings are. So all I'm saying here is we got a Zoom meeting. These are the people in it. And then I just want to make sure see, I'm wondering, this is, yeah, I think this. Okay, look at that. Okay, it's an array of faces. The Corkboard Yarn and Pins Crime Cracker Group. Club. Meh. Okay. Filleted. Filtered. Running. Running that. Hosting the meeting. There we go. That's the term. As I mentioned before, I'm writing a screenplay with Other Realms, and I've discovered Midjourney AI. Yeah, I do know about Midjourney. I think Midjourney is useful. I think that here's the thing. Just remember that with you, when you use things like Midjourney or AIs or software that feeds you character types, you are getting an incredibly narrow and frankly skewered stylistically. You are basically borrowing someone else's voice. And I just want to urge you to be very cautious about anything which puts you through a filter, which makes you look pretty, but like everyone else, because that's what these are. They are following formula, which are algorithmically and steered, and also steered by experts. And all I can tell you is, if that were something that was going to produce good work, everybody's work would be better. right. I think that Midjourney is cool, but it produces the point of Midjourney is essentially it's just doing the work for you. That going on Pinterest and Google Images and searching different types of images and mixing them in your brain, Midjourneying them in your brain. Here, let's just talk for a minute here. What Midjourney is doing is your job. Okay, don't let the AI do your job. It's not going to do it as well as you. If it's going to do it as well as you, then why are you doing it? Right? Why are you writing if an AI can write as well as you? Why are you imagining a landscape if an AI can do it as well as you? The whole point about us is that we are going to bring together this very, very complicated, at the moment at least, more complicated than an AI can, set of factors, of preferences, of feelings, of ambitions, of beliefs that are going to make your work your work. And that is what you are. That's the only thing you have to sell. Okay. That's it. That's all you've got. So therefore, you want to do picture research, do it. You want to do picture research and have Midjourney churn out some images so you have pictures? Cool. I think that's a bad thing. Midjourney is a good picture source. However, it's not a creative step. Midjourney is just a blender, okay? It's a blender that takes a bunch of stuff that has been fed into it, and the more stuff that gets fed into it, the better. But still, what you're going to do is eventually get stuff that comes through the blender, and it comes out pretty standard issue fine, okay? If you were to go on Pinterest or Google image search, or gosh, the Library of Congress image search, the Metropolitan Museum of Art image search, just start looking at images and letting them sift in your brain, it will come out better than Midjourney, okay? And so yes, you can blenderize a whole bunch of characters and put Brad Pitt and Ian McShane together and get your hero. But do that in your head, okay? Do that in your imagination. Don't just run it through the blenderizer, because it will just come out blended. It will come out middle of the road. And that is not good. It's just not. It's acceptable. It's pretty, but it's not good. It's bland. That's all. I just feel very sorry. I've seen a friend of mine actually ran 2 quotes from an Allen Ginsberg poem, Howl, beautifully written quotes, through Midjourney, and came up with gorgeous pictures. They looked like anybody could have done them. They're great, but anybody could have done those. Not anybody, any middle of the road illustrator. All right. So sorry, but I am just ranting a bit. Okay. Yeah, you can't copyright. No, and you can't use you can't use those. You can't, like, you're writing words. Okay. So those pictures are nice. They're inspiration. Okay. Made 2 of my characters needs, right. Yes, exactly. Work, like, just think about what you imagine. Imagine it. That's the Midjourney. Your imagination. Hi, Eva. No. AI screenplays may be likely on the way. They are likely to be bad. I know people who were working on that at Netflix and gave it up. They were actually working on AI screenplay judging software. In other words, could you put in all the great screenplays and come up with what's the perfect screenplay and then check incoming screenplays against it? It doesn't work that way. Okay. Really. Yeah. No, it is an awesome blender. I love it, but it gets boring real fast, doesn't it? Even Pinterest gets boring real fast because all these algorithms, they collect the same thing. I don't know about you. This is one of the big problems I have with my streaming service algorithms, is I like different things on different days. Some days I'm going to watch Schitt's Creek, and some days I'm going to watch The Godfather Part 2. And it can't handle that. It can't give me what I want on the certain day because it doesn't know. It doesn't know, am I in the mood to watch Dan Levy be fabulous, or am I in the time to watch Al Pacino go down the tubes? There is no way to know. And so if it's simply giving you more of what you like, that's perfect if you are a sedentary pile of singular thoughts, which you are not, okay? You are complicated and changing. And the algorithm is not going to be able, most of the time, to figure that out. You have to actually mess it up in order to get the new and original thing that you wouldn't have thought of. You don't need what you already have thought of. Sometimes, yeah, it's like, what else is like X, Y, and Z? Cool. However, by the way, their categories are all messed up, and what they say is like, if something's like a Jack Lemmon movie because it's another Jack Lemmon movie, I promise you, Jack Lemmon was in some very, very different movies, and you don't necessarily, it's just like, sorry. Hi, Dana Scott, glad you're here. Yes. Midjourney eyes. Yes, these are all, yeah. Let them make NFTs. Hi, Blake, by the way. Hi, everybody. It is great to see you here. But let me just say about NFTs, make them. Make them. Who cares? This is the equivalent of deciding that Beanie Babies are valuable. And they're lovely. I like Beanie Babies as objects to hold, as objects that are worth 10,000 times their value tomorrow. It has nothing to do with what we do. Hi, Ghost Beetles. Hi, Ray Pradana. Yeah. Oh, by the way, just on the subject of NFTs and stuff, one of the big problems is independent producers are easily swayed by bullshit like AI scripts and NFTs and other things. Because they're part of a good producer is deeply planted in the art, and part of the good producer is deeply planted in business. That's what a producer should do. Unfortunately, a lot of producers are basically business people who want their business to be fun and sexy. So they don't know what the art is. Those are the bad producers, although sometimes they're very good at getting the money. But that also means that they'll say, oh, yes, this great award-winning film is wonderful. Wait, shiny object over there, it's making more money. To hell with the award-winning film. That's what happens. So just don't. Yeah, AI coverage. Yeah, I'm sorry. Not yet, Andrew says, and Andrew the cat is right. Cool. Yeah, I have not spent any time on Midjourney. I am sure the AI is the greatest file cabinet in the world, and I love it. And yes, it is entirely likely that we will reach the singularity at some point, and AI will write a really great story. However, is that, like dropping paint from a helicopter will eventually create some nice paintings. Okay, that does not mean that you can just say, we've done it. Art should be simply paint dropped from helicopters. Okay. Yes, old man screams at sky. Indeed. There we go. The magic of interest is something we should try to be trying to capture. The magic of interest, as in financial interest. Yeah, exactly. Market, right? Yeah, and honestly, there are markets that can be analyzed better than the art market because the art market is partly just a fad market. Anyway, yes, indeed. Let's write. There we go. I just wanted to cut that down to a shorter line. Okay, I don't have to say windows in quotes because the windows are windows. They are not windows. That's a thing you should know. The use of quotations has two possible uses. One is someone is speaking. They are saying these words. The other is the thing you are saying is not what it says. In other words, they're not really windows. It's not really concerned. Then you put quotes. Otherwise, no quotes. Quotes do not show emphasis. Quotation marks are very specific. All right. Blake, all yours. Anything I say here, It's a fair game. Thank you. Okay. Tried to convince her to let me help, but she was not having it. Tried to convince a good Xena word. Tried to get her to let me. Tried to convince her to. I get her to let me help. All right. So the point is, we quickly tried to get her to let me help. Tried to get her to let me help. That's also that. Tried to get that. Tried to convince her to let me help. Tried to go there to help. Didn't care about George. She hasn't seen him in 30 years. We're. Why didn't you just ask her? Not then. Not then. There's no. That is not a. I just ask her. Just ask her to give you the tape. Do we need this? She didn't care about George. She hadn't seen him. We're more bereaved than okay. Let me see. Hi, Reno. Interesting, Eva. I will tell you that you do not need slugs for each. Oh, actually, you do need slugs for each location. And down the line, that would happen. But at the moment, in order to make it readable, you would. Yes, this is true. For this reading script, I'm not going to bother with that because that would take up a full page and totally stop the flow. And so all I'm going to say is yes. This little thing is indicating that down the line, if there was a production, we would. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bold this to make it even more like stop the script. I'm giving an explanation. So the answer is actually, Eva, you are right. That should have slugs in each location, but because this is just a first draft, hey, read my script, I don't want to waste time on that. Sometimes you don't worry too much about the realities of production because we're not in production yet. So that's it. I just don't want to stop the I don't want to stop the read to put half a dozen slug lines in. Okay. I'm cutting that. I just she hadn't seen him in 30 years. She didn't care about George. Then we go back and forth, folks. That's what happens. Writers go back and forth. It's like this. No, you don't need that. Oh, I do need that. Ask her to give you the tape. If I tell her George left a secret tape identifying CSK in his attic and she doesn't want to help us, which she clearly does not, then she'll tell the police and game over. What are we talking about? George is dead. George poisoned CSK style. CSK style. See, the thing is, actually, what they should say is the actual name of the poison, because they would all know. This bothers me. This bothers me. So I'll just answer a question. Random question, but how would you define story structure, and how would you go about getting better at creating a solid structure? Well, I mean, this is tricky because essentially story structure is just structure. It's just the outline of the story. It's just people in the teaching business, they get into this mystical word game of making up stuff as if it's like special. Ooh, you need to know story. You need to know story structure. It's story structure. It's the structure of the story. It's not a magic thing. It's the structure of the story. So therefore, you just need to know what you think a good structure of a story is. And the one way you get better at it is there are 500,000 videos and books talking about what they think the good structure is, and you should read and learn as many of those as you can, because as I often say, here, let me say it as I often do, you should know every theory and rule and formula you can, and then you only use them when and where they work for your project. That's the deal. You should definitely, there are so many people who have theorized, okay, a structure has 5 parts, or a structure has a low point here, or a structure has a high point there. Some do, some don't. It is good to know that. However, rules are tools. Okay? Anybody who gives you a rule, they're just giving you a tool. It's not actually a rule. Okay? Theories, archetypes, formulae, they are tools you can use or not use. That's the point. That's what story structure is. If you have seen a story that has a structure that you like, that's a structure. Doesn't matter if the rules fit or not. Okay? Nashville or MASH or Breaking Bad, these are all very, very different structures than Casablanca or Gone with the Wind. All of them have different structures, and people spend their careers teaching ways to bend every story into one structure, and it doesn't work. Hamlet has a very, very, very different structure than Bringing Up Baby. Okay, it does. There are, I believe, most things will have a beginning, middle, and end. You just sort of have to, because it has to begin and it has to end, and whatever's in the middle is in the middle. So that's your basic structure. But beyond that, how you break it down and what the rhythm is of the parts of it and how many parts there are, you could make it work a lot of different ways. A lot. And there is no one story structure. So the way you get better at creating a solid structure of your story is number one, top thing to do is watch a lot of movies or shows or whatever it is that you're writing, or read a lot of books or watch a lot of plays. You should actually do all of those things. You should absolutely study the work before you study the theory, okay? It does not help you to know what blah, blah teacher says about the theory of writing. It makes much more difference if you have seen a lot of writing at work doing its job and you figure, ooh, I thought that was clever. Ooh, that was really moving to me. How did they do that? That is the main way that you can learn. Take art apart. That is my main advice, okay? Then the next thing you do, study as many of these how-tos as you feel up to it, except, and this is vital, write first, study after. Do not ever pick up a how-to-write book or video or podcast instead of writing your own story. Ever, 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 ever. If you're only allowed to do how-to stuff after you have done your own writing for the day. Make that a rule. That includes this. Do not listen to me until you have done some work on your own. because it's so easy to spend all your time planning and never doing. Don't do it. Just jump in, get crap done, and then you can write it better. So that's the first thing. Second question, how can you make a setting more useful in a story? I've heard people who say connected to the character and the theme, but not sure how. Well, this is actually pretty easy. Here's how you do this. The character needs to interact with the setting, needs to be imposed upon or making a change in the setting. The setting has to be scaring them or hiding them or making them feel small or giving them ambition, whatever the story is. It depends on your story and your character, but the answer is the interaction between the character and the setting is how does it affect what they are doing and how they feel. Just that simple. Sometimes, it can be making a comment upon them. Like they can be like, hey, New York, here I am, I'm a big deal. But the city is saying, you're a small deal. Or it can be that they're looking at it and saying, I'm going to get to the top of that tower, and it's inspiring. You give things their meaning. There is not a universal use or meaning of settings. It's what you do with it and how it affects the character or the theme or the feelings. The same story in different places will feel differently. One of the things I'm talking in this topic, I'm working on a video about it. One of the things I talk about is world building, is this idea that, for instance, high school, okay? Think about all the things you have seen set in, for my just ease, I'm talking about American high schools, American public high schools. But let's just say schools. Schools. How many schools can you, off the top of your head, think of in various movies and shows? How different are they? The school in Queen's Gambit and the school in Breakfast Club and the school in Euphoria and the school in season 6 or 5 of The Wire, these are the school in Glee, okay? These are drastically different schools, but they're all schools, right? Shouldn't they all be alike? No, because the way that you choose how to interpret these elements of school will make it very, very, very different, and that's the meaning. So just what you want to do is think, what are the cliches that are known? And a lot of people just use the cliches. They just say, oh, everybody knows what school is. It's blah, blah, it's bullies, blah, blah, blah. I personally was not bullied in school. I went to a very small school. But the idea that we've got this set of cliches for church, for school, for apartment building, for country house, for whatever it is, we've got these settings that we think of, factory. And in fact, there's lots of different possibilities. You don't have to stick with the cliche. You have to think about what would be, interesting for you, just interesting, just what you like. That's a lot of how you decide. I think it would be cool to have this be brightly lit. What would that do to the characters? So that's the answer. Okay. Building up tons of notes, reversed from how it usually looks. Any advice? Do a lot of it. Do it. I mean, that's the great thing is my advice is the more you start doing it, the more you want to do it. Like once you've started grabbing things, once you start, taking the bus, I don't know if you take the bus, I take the bus, and you see somebody there and they are living out some drama on their phone and you are eavesdropping, of course, which you should do. You make a little note, write it down, okay? And then pretty soon you'll be like, you're watching a TV show and some funny thing happens and it makes you think, well, what if it happened the other way? And you write down the thing that happened this way instead of what you saw. You'll get this big pile. And so the answer is keep doing it. Hello, Kirby Light. Lead character. Yeah. Yeah, no solid lead character. Yeah. Yeah, just, at some point, it doesn't matter what order you do things in, as long as you do all of them eventually. Like if you start with, a secondary character and you end up developing a lead, cool. Doesn't matter as long as at some point you choose a lead. That's fine. Hi, Cheyenne. Good to see you. I am so glad you are here. So great to have you back. Yes. Yeah. Love the idea of reading. Yes. Thank you, Eva, for asking about that production question. Legitimate point. Yeah. The main thing about a reading script is you just want to keep it clear of everything that makes someone forget about the reality of the people in the story. That's for me a reading script. A good reading script is one that just involves you so that you kind of are just imagining it as if you are seeing something really happening. Not a movie, a thing that's really happening. That's when you get a good read. Hello, Larry. Analyzing a Python module. I do not know. Okay. I do not know what a Python module is, so therefore, good luck. Don't let it bite your head off. Yes, indeed. All right. Okay. In one of my videos, I mentioned that my movie Like, Share, Follow was distributed. It was not just distributed by Blumhouse, it was produced by Blumhouse. Because distributors, you don't really know them. Producers, you know. How was it working with them? Great. I worked with them 3 times. There are pluses and minuses to working with everyone, but my experience was very valuable. They treated me well. It's a hard business. The thing is, it started almost 9 years ago. So, and I stopped working with them about 5 years ago. So therefore, the way that companies go, it's a different place than it was 5 years ago, certainly 9 years ago. Even in the 4 years that I was working there with them, not working at Blumhouse, but working with Blumhouse, they changed a great deal. Companies are constantly evolving. People are changing their jobs, and different people are coming in, and the landscape in which they work is changing. So the answer is Blumhouse is a place that, at least at the time I was around there, they were very into giving people a chance, working with people who wanted to work their way into the business and learn it and grow, and they really helped develop people at all levels of the business, from the people at the front desk and the interns, all the way up through the editors and the directors. Everybody was constantly working, not for the biggest money and not at the most glamorous place. I mean, it was a cool place to work, but it wasn't like, a studio lot, just in terms of size of location, place. But they were always trying to support as many individuals as they possibly could, while at the same time making themselves a powerhouse. Yes, that's true. Yeah, it's true about the locations. Reno, there's a guy named Seth Worley who apparently has good thoughts on structure. Check out Seth Worley. And another YouTuber is Hello Future Me. Interesting. Okay, cool. Hi, Maria. Yay, Maria made it. Yay. Today I was writing a scene where a character is explaining something while we see snippets of other action, i.e. narrating. Wasn't sure how to format that. Yes, actually, I have advice on that. It depends, but the main way I would do that is to simply have intersperse the voice with the here. Let's see if I can find it like this. Imagine that this was the person talking, but at the same time we were seeing that. So that, like, this would be Reparista saying, "Oh, I remember the Bulgarian War. It was hard on me and my folks, but we got out by pretending to be circus performers and crossing the border in a circus truck." So that's the speech, the dialogue. Meanwhile, here we have a picture of this person working as a waiter. And that's their memories that they're talking about, but we see that their not life now is that they're working as a waiter. In other words, and you do that with this VO, voice over. If you do that, so then this is a voice over, which means the thing that we are hearing is not related to the thing we are seeing. Is that making sense? Let me know, Ghost Beatles, does that help? But that's the main way I would do it. You don't want to, once again, like Eva was asking, do you want to put a slug line every time you go back and forth? No. You just describe the place that you're seeing, and the voice is called voice over, which means that it's a disembodied voice. All right. What are some of the best tips directing actors to a script you've written that you were then also directing? This question is a big one and a hard one. So let's the quick answer is read Judith Weston's book, Directing Actors. Hold on, let me see if I've got, I think I have, yeah, bingo. Directing Actors by Judith Weston. Number one thing I would advise you to do. The second thing I would advise you to do is listen to as many podcasts and interviews with directors, and especially writer-directors, that you can find, because they will give you all sorts of different tips. Everyone will do things differently. The main thing, here, let's just take a second to talk straight. The main thing I would emphasize when you are directing, especially directing something you've written, is not to try to control what the actors are doing. Let them do what they do. Watch what they do, and then try and give them some notes. But don't tell them, first of all, don't tell them before they start what they should be doing. Let them do it, and then see what you think about it. And if they're too big, don't tell them they're wrong. Say, try it another way as well, so that we have things to look at, so that we can consider different options. Talk to them as if you're saying, we're all doing this together. It's not like I know the right answer and you have to figure out how to please me. That's bad directing. Good directing is to say, my job is to pull together my sense of the story and my sense of all the characters and my sense of the visual storytelling. And I am telling everyone how to swerve their work to help that. But everyone's doing their own work. I need them to do their own work, to invent their things their way. That's the main thing that you have to let actors do. You have to say, be the version of this that you want to be. Try it. Let's see. And then if it's not fitting because you think that they're being too aggressive, say, try to seduce. Think in verbs. Always don't be judging, be giving them a verb to try to play. Verbs. It's all about verbs, and it's all about less is more. Also, there's a book, I think it's called Ilya Kazan on Directing, or here, let's try. I don't know. Kazan on Directing, I believe. When I was starting to direct one of my first things, director of Fracture, Greg Hoblet, who's a masterful director who had directed everything from way back at Hill Street Blues and NYPD Blue and LA Law and Primal Fear, just done tons of stuff. He directed Fracture. He knew I wanted to direct. He, in exchange for me not arguing with him all the time about the script, which we had a conversation about that, he said, I will teach you what I know about directing as much as I can while we work. And he did. And one of the things he did was at the end of the show, as a gift, he gave me this book. And it was phenomenally useful. So I would just say that. Also, Maria, you should just email me at writingforscreens.com, because I have some other stuff I can give you privately. Just don't want to. This is about, in theory, I'm teaching writing, so I want to like stick to that. But oh, good. Yeah, yeah. I mean, great. I am so glad that is useful because, yeah, because it's useful. Right. I can't be modest about that. It is great. It's good. I live in the Tolkien theater surgeon of classical fantasy. So I never get the titles you reference. Huh. Tell me which one you didn't get, and I will explain it, because I do not like to leave people out of references. Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, stereotypes do exist for a reason. Absolutely. Stereotypes are always indicative of something. They may not be the truth of the character, but they are useful. Very often stereotypes help us to understand what we think we know about someone, and then it gets undermined. But also stereotypes are indicating true cultural situations. That is what I'd say. No, I get it. It's all good. Yeah, start with the 6. Yeah, Eva is right, and I'm not going to argue with that. Okay, making things practical. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Okay. We're just all talking about how great I am. That's lovely. How can having a budget in mind help you with writing your script? Well, it depends. Especially if you are writing a low budget. If you are writing something that is going to be done independently, then understanding about how budgets work and what costs and what doesn't cost will help you to write something that is practical for someone to produce without much money. Once you're working in like studio scale things, it doesn't really matter, because it's all mind-blowingly expensive, and it's more important that it be competitive in the field of dazzle, which is the coin of the realm for big studio films. The most important value is like, we'll spend $20 million to get that effect that no one's ever seen before. If you can think of an effect that no one's ever seen before, that's the tricky thing. Can you think of it? It's very easy to spend a lot of mental money on things that everyone has seen before and we know work. We know that exploding planets are popular because Star Wars blew up planets and everyone's been blowing them up since then. There's lots of things that we have seen before, and you say, oh yeah, a battle where the people shoot rays at each other, and one ray of one color and one ray of the other, and they go, and then it's such. Yeah, we've all seen that. The tricky thing with big budget is, how can you think of something interesting, original, new, and emotional? Then budget doesn't matter. The way that budget helps is for the rest of us, for every one of us who is writing something that will be done on a limited budget, to know the basics. And you can Google that, producers on budget, producers on independent film budgeting. But don't overthink it. Just, lots of people are usually expensive. Tricky thing is, when you get to a certain low budget, when you get below, when you get to like nobody's getting paid, everyone is just doing it because it's fun, which you still should have signed releases for those people. Then, frankly, people are free. You can get as many as you want. But once you start actually paying people to perform, then the number of actors really matters. The number of locations really matters. The amount of equipment and trucks. So therefore, if you were going to do something outdoors at night, you need a lot of lighting equipment and stuff like that. When you do things outdoors in general, you need to worry about sound, and very often you need lights to fill in because the natural light is moving. So those are all things that matter for budget. But this is not, the answer is, it helps to understand what costs and what doesn't, because some things don't cost a lot of money at all. And to think about what is valuable. And I can tell you right now, what's cheapest? Emotions, acting, people having relationships and dialogues and taking actions. That's free. That's the cheapest thing you can do. And if you can do that, everything else will work. Okay. I feel like starting the novel with so much brainstorm material, but without a lead, I'd be wasting my time beginning it. No, I don't think that's true. You're not wasting anything as long as you're building up to what the story is. I mean, you know, there isn't a right or wrong process for how you come to a structure. It's not like there's a ready-made structure that you are supposed to be filling in, and anything that you're not doing for that is wasting time. You are finding the structure, and sometimes you do that by exploring, by hold on a second, by brainstorming and trying different directions and discarding them. That is a part of the creative process. That's not wasting anything. The only thing that's wasted is if you actively spend a lot of time in detail figuring out one direction, and then because of a basic decision that should have been made at the beginning, throwing it out and starting again. That is to a certain extent wasted, but you also sometimes end up having to do it. Is it crazy to choose leading characters for your not yet option producers? I want Chris Pine. There is no reason not to want Chris Pine. The answer is, it is not crazy. It is almost inescapable. Most people spend a lot of time casting their scripts. The answer is, don't put it in the script, because then everyone who's not Chris Pine is going to be pissed off when they read it. They're going to be like, here, this is a part for Chris Pine. And they'll be like, hey, what am I, chopped liver? So the answer is, don't put it in the script, but there's nothing wrong with making those imaginary cast lists. Absolutely. Jacob Kruger does a free hour of writing session tonight. Oh, cool. That's great. I've heard good things about Jacob Kruger. I do not know Jacob Kruger, but I have heard great things about it. Thank you, Eva. Eva's given me lots of praise. That's good. Yeah, VO. That is the answer. Yeah. Good work, Eva. Number one, check. Good. Okay, so the thing that I'm writing a script for a graphic novel. The thing is that I'm writing a script for a graphic novel, so my visuals are bound by panels. The VO should help it make, yes. Also, Ghost Beatles, if you have not read Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics and Making Comics, and there's sorry, I'm just looking to see if I've already written this down. Yes, I have. Boom, diddy boom. Understanding Comics, Making Comics, and Reinventing Comics by Scott McCloud. If you have not read those, you really should if you are working on a graphic novel. That is something. But yes, VO is great when you're doing a graphic novel. I will tell you more about arguing with director of Fracture when I do the thing about Fracture, but I don't want to. We've only got a few minutes here, so I wish I didn't live halfway across the world, so I don't have to see this way past my minute. Good night, Ray. It's nice that you dropped by. I am sorry that we all live around the world, but it's pretty cool. Let's face it, it is pretty cool that we are all over the globe and connecting. One of the good things about the internet, which sometimes is destroying all of culture and democracy, but it's also letting us do this. Got to give it to it. All right, let's see what else. I find it hard because I wrote this story, so I'm married to it being one way. There's that is normal. However, the thing to do is get people to read it out loud to you a bunch of times. Just break down that illusion that you're actually going to have people say things the way you want. The most exciting thing for a director is, and a writer-director especially, is when you write something and they say it, and it's not really how you picture it, but it doesn't matter because the moment they say it, it becomes the right way. It's just like, you're like, oh yeah, that's great, that's fine, that's okay, it's good. You let that happen. Practice. The only way that a writer gets used to not over-directing how people should do things is by practicing being a good director. And I can tell you, a lot of writers never do that, and it makes them sucky directors, and actors hate them. Find out. There's no end of material about how to be a good director. There's lots of books of interviews with directors. I urge you to read those. But the main thing you need to do is practice. Just be consciously practice letting it happen and seeing how it works. That's the best thing. Yes, you want to direct. The way to direct effectively. Oh, Sidney Lumet also. Sidney Lumet wrote a good book called Making Movies. I think I got that here. Yeah. Sidney Lumet, Making Movies. Forget the David Mamet. That's something else. But Making Movies by Sidney Lumet, another good one on the process, the way you let people do their thing. Talking about schools and different shows. Oh, that's okay. Okay. You know what? A, not a problem. B, you can live your entire life without seeing Glee or any of the things I mentioned. I was just mentioning them because most people have seen them. However, in your case, let's just talk about knights. Like what is a knight? What is a castle? And if you think about what a castle is in different stories, they're remarkably different, even if they are, in theory, all alike. And that's my point. It has nothing to do with the particular references. I was trying to do a reference that I thought most people would recognize, but for someone who does not watch TV, not a problem. You've got books, and those books are full of variations on themes. Okay, forests. Like in Dana, in your world, forests. Okay, think about all the different forests. And yet when somebody says, oh, they're in the forest, you're like, okay, I know what that is. No, you don't. It's the writer's job to say, this is the kind of forest this is. Some forests can be very nurturing and protective, and some forests can be full of giant spiders that bite your head off. Okay. Hey, Ches. Very, very glad that you have been. Well, I was off for a week because I had some illness. So welcome. Sorry I'm leaving in 2 minutes. More history of China, Ireland, ancient than I do about Game of Thrones, for instance. You know what? I admire that, and those are two fascinating histories, and mixing the two of them is even more interesting. Period pieces are expensive. Rain is expensive. Yeah. Anything. These are all just if you Google production costs and what independent film production budgets and stuff, people will talk about that. Yeah, obviously anything set in a period means everybody's clothes and cars and everything have to be brought in, so that costs. Actually, the best thing to do, by the way, about what Eva's saying here about the question of where was it? Distracts question, having a budget in mind writing can help with writing your script. One of the easy things is just search for, not necessarily Google, but search on the internet for low budget writing, or writing scripts for low budget, or no budget, or DIY. Any of those, there will be tons of advice on the main thing you want is the stuff that you don't have to pay for. So if you know someone who owns a restaurant, or this is also really important. If you do not live in New York or Los Angeles or other certain cities where, frankly, everyone is going to charge you a fortune to sit in their cafe and shoot a scene. But if you live in a small town and there's a cafe and you're like, hey, can I shoot for a couple hours before you open? They'll be like, sure, why not? That'll be fun. So it can be a real advantage to not be in a big media city. But the main thing is just search how to write for ultra low budget, for no budget, for indie film. That you will find more than enough material for that. All right. I'm just trying to catch up. Maria has 41 actors and production ultra low budget project agreement with 41 actors. Well, you know what? If they're willing to do that, just make sure you get signed paperwork. Okay, finding, filming the script. Oh, that's right. You were working on a short. I owe a lot of the writing to you. Thank you. Great. Yeah, you're going to be rewriting it while you're shooting it. You're going to be rewriting it in post. You may have to reshoot things. It's all okay. Oh, that's great. I am so glad. This is marvelous. Yeah, I have a friend who always casts dead actors, like Montgomery Clift and Elizabeth Taylor. Do you by any chance have a rule or guideline about when to use subtext, when to be more overt in dialogue? I know it's all subjective, but sometimes you have guiding principles. I would say this is an interesting question. Partly, you want to sort of choose a tone for your each project. You know what I mean? Like some projects are more subtexty than others. And you want to sort of decide how upfront you're going to be overall. And then you would say, okay, I'm going to be like, mostly subtexty here. And then now and then to make a big point or to have something be a turning point or something to be a big emotional high point, you break through the subtext. But the guiding principle is really, I think, how you feel. I have fallen into the too subtexty. I have gotten to where sometimes things are so subtexty that honestly nobody has any idea what's going on in my scripts. So I would say one of the things you do is go as subtexty as you want, as you feel like, but then show it to some people and see if they're not getting it. Because if they're not getting it, you gotta fix that. I have had this problem. I have been, and sometimes I haven't even known. Like, why don't they understand that? It's so clear, but it's not. So one thing is, it's going to depend on what percentage of the audience you're okay losing. Losing 20%, fine. If you're losing 50% or more, see if you can't make things a little clearer. And yes, congrats Maria and Ches. Actors don't want to be marionettes. Stephen Hoover is absolutely right about that. Yes, best wishes of production. Yes, yeah. Well, the tricky thing about television director is that the part of the dynamic there is it's not the directing, it's the corporate production process means that directors are coming in on an ongoing machinery. So you don't get to stop and say, okay, this is how we're going to shoot it. There's already an established style. There is a lot to being a television director, but that's not about the medium of television. It's about the business of television. It's not like you couldn't write something and direct something in a different style of production methods than they currently use, and it wouldn't like come out on television. It would be perfectly fine. The reason that being a television director is different is because of the business of television, not the art of television. Okay. Yes, Maria, thank you. It is amazing to get to the point of actually filming. Nothing beats DIY. Also, expect to have things not come out like you think. That's an important part of the experience is getting, I once did a DIY thing and halfway through, I just realized I wasn't going to be able to shoot all the time that I wanted. So I had to cut the story in half. And I had to edit an hour. It's an hour-long short. It's actually really good, but it's only half of the story. And it's not like the first half or the second half. It's like parts I had filmed, and I had to figure out how to reorganize them to make a story out of what was parts of another story. That's still good. It doesn't mean I failed. Okay. Yeah, I know it is. It's hard. It is. Okay. Gonna go write something. Yay, Nathan. All right, everybody. We gotta wind down. You know what? if this totally falls apart, Ches, and you can't even finish it, you still does not mean you can't direct. It just means you're learning. Protagonist or antagonist who you have fun writing dialogue for. This is one of those things that over time has become more meaningless to me. I was thinking about, I was listening to an interview with Jack Antonoff, who's a music producer as well as a musician, he's Bleachers, but he also produces for a lot of people. He also produces for a lot of women. So he's getting interviewed, and one of the questions was like, wow, you produce for a lot of women. You know, what is it about you and women? You know, what is it? And I remember when I was pretty hot in my writing career in the late 90s, early 2000s, I happened to be writing a lot of female main characters. And one of the like, oh, here's a guy who can write women. And I remember thinking, they're people. They're people. Why would you not be able to write women? So that's the main thing about protagonists and antagonists. They're just people. Everybody's people to me. So I have fun writing people. And that's honestly, like, to me, protagonist, antagonists are almost meaningless terms. It's about the individuals. That really is. I don't mean that like. I personally think that's the best way to be writing. Okay. Think subtext will go over most of the audience's heads. We have such a blatant exposition and product placement and characters. You know, it's like, I think it being it. It depends. It depends. The subtext is very, very valuable. It is very, very valuable to the people who are acting it and directing it. But you'd be surprised how much subtext there is in a lot of stuff. Yes. Remember to get your shots. Cover. Get lots of coverage. I just think it is pointless to wait get someone else to make your movie. Find a way to shoot it yourself. Phones come with amazing cameras. Maria is correct. Although one thing I will say is not everyone has the ambition or ability to direct. And that's okay, because if you can write something, you will find people to direct it. The question is whether you have to wait for their permission to make it, or whether you could just find someone who will make it DIY, in which case Maria's entire take goes completely right, which is you do not want to wait to get the big money deal. You want to just be do stuff. I wrote a 20-minute short. Is it too long? No, that's a good long length. Yep. Thank you. You are welcome. Thank you for being here and doing it with me. And with that, before anybody asks another question, I'm going to say, go write something.